books are a huge industry right now. And comic book publishers have branched out into other media like television shows and movies. But where did the comic book get its start? It happens that the first comic books were published in 1933 by a man of the name, and they were published by a man named Maxwell Charles Gaines. Gaines was a former elementary school principal who ended up going into the publishing business. The first line of comic books was All American Comics. Superman came along in 1938, Batman came along in 1939, and Wonder Woman followed in 1941. Gaines's All-American Comics were getting a lot of criticism for being too violent and too sexual. So in 1940, he created an advisory editorial board to oversee the quality and content of the comics. One of the first members that he hired to be on this board was a man by the name of William Marston, who later went on to create the character of Wonder Woman. This advisory board was created in 1940. One of the biggest critiques of comic books came about during World War II, where people were concerned that these highly sensational, highly violent publications were going to create a generation even more prone to violence than the one currently embroiled in a world war. When asked about the torture, sadism, and violence in comic books, especially towards women, Marsden had this to say: "The reader's wish is to save the girl, not to see her suffer." One of the well-known publishers of comics is DC Publications, and DC actually stands for Detective Comics because that was the comic line that brought us Batman. In 1940, when this advisory editorial board was brought together, the people that wrote the Detective Comics decided that they would create a stamp that said a DC publication that they would put on all of their approved comic books as a sign of quality. As part of his role on this advisory board, when one of the critiques that came through was that all the comics were very masculine, Marsden was the one who suggested creating a female superhero. And that is how we ended up with Wonder Woman. Gaines picked up the Superman title after all of the other syndications had turned down ideas for the character. In 1939, a year after Superman was picked up as a character, we have the first example, or the first instance of one comic book being dedicated to a single character and a single series of events. Before that, comic books were a series of short stories put together.